Today's guest is Ben and his producer, Rachael from 2Perf. Me and Ben have some mutual connections that we've worked with back in the day, but we've actually never met until right now. So I'm really interested to hear how he runs his production studio, how he built his cyc wall. His stuff is really good. So anyways, without further ado, here's my conversation with Ben and Rachael. So Ben and Rachael, yeah, how's it going?
Good.
It's going good. We're happy to be here, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. I'm super interested to hear kind of y'all's journey to kind of get to where y'all are now. Kind of give me an intro of who y'all are. Y'all run a production company. You have a little studio. Kind of give me the whole gamut here.
Yeah. So we run 2Perf Productions. I started 2Perf 4 years ago, and before that, I was kind of just freelancing in film, shooting, gaffing, doing everything I could. I even I worked as a grip on Fear, which you worked on.
I worked on that.
Fear the Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I PA'd on that show as well. But yeah, I just kind of, just been running and gunning. And I kind of brought Rachael into the fold recently, but overall, just, started this company a couple of years ago and doing the thing ever since.
Yeah, and Rachael, you are producer extraordinaire.
I am. Ben brought me in to do a lot of business development, produce on set, kind of get ducks in a row because his business has been growing. And, you can do so much, but you also need that person that has eyes on the financials, eyes on the call sheet, all eyes on all these other things. So
yeah, I think so. Just to go back a little bit, I started 2Perf as a way for originally just for filmmakers to have a hub to come together and make stuff, because I was just making stuff with friends, and as a lot of filmmakers know, that's how you do it. You pull together. My friend has a light. My friend has a camera. My friend can shoot, and my friend can produce. So I just thought, hey, let's have a place to organize this. And I mean, full transparency, I was just starting it out of a bedroom, and I just said, someone asked me, a friend of mine asked me, do you make videos? Do you think you could make a video for my company? I was like, you know what? I think I do make videos. Yeah. And from there I started 2Perf. And I mean, it's been a huge passion of mine since day one. Obviously, as filmmakers, we love to make things. And I just thought, let me give myself and my friends a network to start making stuff. And that was how we started. Just let's make cool looking stuff that makes us feel something,
Yeah.
he's got to tell you how he came up with the name too. Because when I saw him post about the job that I originally got or whatever, I was like, oh, too perfect, conceited much, but it's not too perfect.
So it's not too perfect.
It's not too perfect. Yeah. So I guess 35 millimeter film is traditionally 4Perf.
Does that mean every cell has a perforation?
Yeah. So it would be the height of the frame would be measured by the perforations. And this was something that I asked my buddy Tiger, who's a really talented DP in town. At film school, we went to UT, and I was like, can you tell me a little bit about negative pull down, perforations, all of this stuff? And he gave me this sort of really detailed info about how we measure film strips. And I looked into it, and I was just kind of fascinated by 2Perf because it's what they use to shoot spaghetti westerns. And it's how you get that CinemaScope look on 35 millimeter film without actually shooting using a lot more film. So it's kind of how can we be creative? How can we use what we have to make something really, really extraordinary? Because when you look at spaghetti westerns, you don't go, oh man, they were saving money trying to shoot 2Perf film on this.
Is that the only reason? Because they had to save money?
I mean, probably not if you ask the DP.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's no, it was a creative vision.
Yeah.
It was all my vision. Yeah.
Right. But it probably comes down to something like that at the end of the day.
Right. Or you could probably shoot longer on one reel. Right?
Yeah, you could shoot
essentially doing 2 frames per 35 mil.
Yeah, I guess you just don't have to use as much film. And so, and it also has the effect of, since you're doing that, you're punching in a little bit more. You're getting the CinemaScope on a film stock that's maybe traditionally not supposed to have CinemaScope. So you might be seeing a little bit more grain. You might be seeing a little bit more of that, medium. And I think that's really interesting because we're all about authenticity and realness. And I think that 2Perf format speaks volumes to that authenticity, that realness, and just using your mind to say, this is what we have. This is what we need to create. How can we make something extraordinary without like, you know, breaking either thing,
Yeah.
breaking the budget or breaking what we have, you know?
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's great to see a 2-person team because we have something similar here where like, I feel like I think about creative stuff all the time. And like, I'm a very like right brain focused individual. Like we probably all are as cinematographers, right?
Sure.
I think you kind of have to just be super creative all the time. But the left side of the brain kind of gets neglected for me, where it's all the admin stuff. It's the email inbox. It's the invoices. It's all the things
Your
over there.
inventory.
All that stuff. And so I think hiring the right person to kind of fill that gap and to pick up, you know, what I was dropping, all the balls that I was dropping, to have somebody come in and pick that up was huge.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. And honestly, just like bringing Rachael onto the team felt so like, it just felt like it made a lot of sense because there is that aspect. Obviously, like you bring a ton of organization and a ton of like practicality to it, but you also have incredibly creative ideas all the time too. So, you know, I don't know. I think that's
What's good about a 2-person team is you don't have 5 people with opinions. It's like we bounce ideas off of each other all day long. I mean, we write on the table like, oh, this is like, you should see, it's like a brainstorm session. It's really cool. Just like coming up with things all the time.
And so we're actually inside of an art collective. So it kind of just happened organically. So I started the company and we started making some videos. One of the first videos we made was, I guess, spec. I mean, it was just kind of a development project for, it was a concept called Kovac Sessions. And it was, we would shoot artists at a historical venue called the Victory Grill. And the team had asked me to pull together a DP. So I had seen this guy, Joey Hunt. I had seen his work at UT when I went to UT. And I was like, this guy makes the most incredible images. And so I hit him up just on a whim. He's still studying at UT, and he did for a long time, and he was still making like
still
the most insane work. Like, no, I think he graduated, but he's just like incredible. He worked on it, and he connected me with a director named Moyo, who had a studio space in this place called the Highland Collective, and it was just at its very infancy at that time. And I came and dropped off some gear, and I looked around, and I was like, you know, maybe I could use some space here. And I talked to the guys, and running the wood shop, which is a whole nother rabbit hole, but basically there was a wood shop that took on this building and had all this extra space, and the guys who were letting the wood shop lease the rest of the building said, if you turn the rest of the building into an art collective, you can do it for, you know, cheaper or whatever. So they had an interest in bringing more artists in, and I had an interest in having a space to grow out of, you know, the bedroom that I was in. I remember at one point, like what solidified me getting a space was my camera was stored next to my laundry, and like I went to go pull a sheet out, and just like my camera just hit the ground, like cause I had just like, you know, like it just anyways. And I was like,
it's time.
I was like, it's time. Yeah. Luckily the camera was fine somehow, but it just completely smacked the tile, and I was like, yeah, it's time. So I worked out a deal to move into this space. And anyways, long story short, Highland Collective is a group of artists and an amazing wood shop called Austin Custom CNC. And we just kind of are in this space with other artists, just constantly bouncing creative ideas off of each other. And just, you don't really know what's going to happen next at that place, which I think really contributes to just the
Awesome
creative energy. That goes on. Yeah. I think it's fun.
Yeah. That's great. And I get the sense that y'all are people persons.
Yes.
Right.
Sure,
Because I mean, you can't make, like, you can freelance. And I think when we all first start out in filmmaking, like, we're one-man banding it, right? We have a camera. Some people hire us. We go film a wedding by ourselves. But then I think the true magic happens when you find those people who do something a little bit different or something a little bit better. And then y'all kind of all get together with this kind of joint vision to create a video. You know what I mean? And that's when our skills really start to flourish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think like I was maybe almost more excited about working with friends than I was about making videos at first. You know what I mean? Like I knew I wanted to make videos, but also just the concept of like having a place where we can just be like, hey, let's make this thing. We all have enough gear to where all of us together can make this cool idea that we thought of. And like you said, just the aspect of collaborating with people and just hearing what their ideas are and just the broad range of experiences that people have that bring to the table is so fascinating to me. Yeah.
Now you've worked with Taylor Stanley,
Yeah.
Yeah. What did y'all do? Because Taylor and Clayton, you know
Yeah.
Clayton, of course.
Yeah. Forest and Pine.
Yep.
Yeah.
We were just talking about.
Yeah. So Clayton went to Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And so we met in Lubbock. And then we were both doing video stuff at the church that we were at. We both moved to Austin separately. And then we've kind of kept in touch and worked together occasionally. But yeah, they're doing great work. But yeah, I saw that y'all had worked together.
Yeah. So that's funny because like they kind of were a huge integral part of my career, honestly, and just 2perf because when I graduated college, I came in contact with them through a guy named Steve White, who is like he's a producer on, what is that show? The one 1887, is that what it's called?
Oh,
Is that what it's called?
is that the
I've never-
Yellowstone?
Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
Oh yeah, the Yellowstone sequel or something like that.
Yeah.
yeah, he does some work on that now or whatever, but he was producing a show called BarbaQuest, which is like a tour of Texas barbecue. And I got connected with him through like a babysitting contact. And he was like, hey, you should jump on this show as a PA. Met Clayton and Taylor. They were shooting and directing that show. And I basically told them, hey guys, like, whatever you want to pay me is fine. Just hire me. I have nothing going on and I just want to work, you know? And from that day forward, like I worked with them on everything. And
That's great.
yeah, they taught me everything. They were incredibly generous to me. They, you know, gave me old pieces of gear that they didn't need anymore that helped me build that I still use to this day. Like the director's monitor cage that we have, they gave me, you know? And they've just helped me out so much. And yeah, I feel like I learned so much working with them because it was a small team. And it was kind of working with Forest and Pine that made me realize, like, I think I can do this for myself. Like I could start my own production company. And yeah, so yeah, I mean, for a period of probably 3 years, I was their AC gaffer, you know, PA, media transfer person.
That's great.
Yeah.
I probably heard your name get thrown around back
Yeah.
in the day when I used to chat with them quite a bit.
Yeah.
Ben, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, because I mean, I remember just kind of organizing their gear room and doing everything that I could to help them out, and they did everything they could to help me out. So yeah, we still keep in touch, and they're great guys.
Yeah, man. The right people will help you. I think Jim Collins. I think that book is over there. Good to Great by Jim Collins. He talks a lot about getting the right people on your team, right? And he uses the analogy of get the right people on the bus before you start to drive the bus somewhere. Because if you have the wrong people on the bus, it doesn't matter where you're driving, they might be in the wrong place, right? You get to where you're going and they're like, oh, it's the wrong place. So the analogy that he brings up all the time throughout the book is get the right people on the bus. And that sounds like that's what y'all have done.
Totally. Yeah, I think so. And I mean, for them, like for Forest and Pine specifically, I think it was just the right place, right time. I was looking for a ton of work and a ton of experience. They had a ton of stuff going on that they needed a ton of help with. You know what I mean? And you know how it is with production companies. We have to be lean operations because we might go 3-4 months without having any work. And that's not because we're not, you know, that company isn't great. It's just because that's the way that this media landscape is, you know? So they needed consistent help and, you know, I needed consistent work. So it turned out perfectly. And it was funny. Like there's just so many like random little adventures that we went on that are so dear to my heart, you know, and like those little formative experiences really define your learning curve in a way. And I feel like I remembered so many things. Like whenever you zero out a lens, always, you know, put it all wide open and throw it all the way out of focus. Like it's just hammered into me. You know what I mean? Like little things like that, just because I was putting away their lenses every shoot and everything. And so,
Yeah, that's great. So how long have y'all been in this new studio that y'all are in?
So yeah, we moved into the Highland Collective in 2021.
Okay.
And then I built the space, which is our small psych wall studio. I built that last April. So it's been 1 year since we had the space up and running. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And you'll have a psych wall. What size psych wall y'all got?
So the psych wall is 14 feet wide, 8 feet deep, and 10 feet tall.
Nice. So it's a 3-sided?
It's a 3-sided, yeah. It's like a tub, like a bathtub. But so yeah, it's inside of a room. So the limitation there is the back wall, essentially. So the psych wall itself takes up about half of the room, and then the rest of the room is just kind of an open working area. So the challenge has definitely been bringing a lot of crew in. Like I would say max crew you can fit is, we did have like a 10-person shoot. It was a little tight, but you can probably fit 10 people in there. So I call it the small to medium sized studio that people need for, you know, smaller stuff and photo. Bread and butter has been more photo, but just because there's so much going on at the Highland Collective that it's harder to roll sound. That's one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because you got neighbors that are right there.
And there's a full service wood shop, which it's incredible to me that we've actually even gotten away with having this many video shoots there. Like I'm like, because some days it's like really loud in there. You know what I mean? Some days it's like crazy loud because they have like concrete router bits and like, you know, they're doing like massive, like multi-million-dollar woodworking projects.
That's
like,
wild.
Right.
Yeah. Occasionally we'll get, if it's like bad timing, we'll be doing a podcast in here and they're mowing the grass out there.
Yeah.
And it takes them forever. And it's a tiny little patch of grass, but it still takes them like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to have to pause for a bit and I'll go ask them. But yeah, so sound is definitely, even
tough.
in our studio, sound is, yeah, you're right. Sound is tough.
No, it's just tough. Yeah, it's really tough. And like even there's a lot of construction because we're right there on airport. So there's a lot of construction, stuff like that. So that's been one of the biggest challenges. And I just kind of tell my clients like openly, hey, you know, there might be moments that we have to just walk around the shop and say, hey guys, we're going to roll this take. Like just, I kind of gauge how chill people are before I let them shoot there. Just because if someone basically says like, we need perfect quiet sound the whole time, I'm like, you should probably go to another studio that has full soundproofing.
Yeah.
We're more in that niche of like, you know, you're trying to accomplish something kind of crazy, you know, on a budget, or you want to take photos, or you're flexible with your timing on the video. But yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beyond the Studio is produced and recorded at Round Rock Studio, the perfect space to bring your visual ideas to life. Round Rock Studio is a photography and production studio with a 20-foot by 20-foot cyclorama wall. The studio has built-in lights, essential grit gear, and even a client green room, setting you up for a successful shoot. Round Rock Studio also offers podcast recording in their state-of-the-art podcast room, including microphones, cameras, lights, and everything you need to get your podcast out into the world. Go to roundrock.studio for more information. Round Rock Studio, a place for creatives to be creative.
How much planning did you do before building out your studio? Was it kind of like you got the idea and just kind of went for it? Or,
Yes.
or did you sit on it? Yes.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't sit on it at all. I would say probably a week at most.
A week?
Yeah, before
From
I started tearing
conception
down a
to
wall.
hammer on the wall.
Yeah, it was like, no, you know, the way it worked was I had this opportunity to take on another room in the collective, and it was a T-shaped room. Like it was like you walk in and there's a wall that cuts it and there's a T. And I was going to build basically in the back of the T, it was going to be like a little office. And then in the front, it was going to be a papered backdrop with like 2 lights on the grid. And Chloe, my girlfriend, walked in and goes, why don't you just knock down this wall and build a bigger studio? And I was like, oh, God. I was like, I
Like,
can't
that's
do
such
that.
a good idea.
I was like, I can't do that. 1 week later, I was knocking a wall down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it's just crazy because like at the shop, at the collective, there's a full service fabrication shop called Howdy Built, other than the wood shop. And they're also doing huge installations all the time. Daniel Baugh, he's such a great guy, amazing, talented fabricator. And it's just incredible to just walk out and be like, hey, does anybody know how to tear a wall down? Like, can anybody just like tell me how to do this? And they always have full advice on how to do this kind of stuff. So I did definitely, you know, hire some help to do, like, I hired contractors to help me with cutting the cyc wall skeleton on the CNC machine, and obviously doing the drywall, doing the 1/4-inch drywall and the actual drywall finishing and whatnot. But we built the grid ourselves. We took down the wall. We took out the ceiling. We did the electric work. You know, we just kind of like just vibed through it, and we were just like, we're gonna just make this happen, I guess. You know,
Probably saved a ton of money too doing it yourself.
yeah, we saved a ton of money. It was not, I mean, just honestly, full transparency, it was around 10 grand to do it.
Yeah. The grid and
The grid, the
sidewall,
lights,
paint.
everything. It was
Yeah.
probably 10 or 11,000. Yeah, total.
Yeah.
And the biggest expense was the drywall. That was the thing that if I could go back and say, I'm going to make a plan, it would be like learn how to do some more drywalling or like ask around, because to do that level of finish, you probably know this, but to do that smooth and a level of finish for that kind of curve, especially the ones the 4-point curve,
Yeah.
that is hard.
Oh yeah, I bet. I didn't do it. So I thought about doing my own cyc wall, and I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and I was like specking out prices and all that stuff. And then the closer I got to like, hammer time, I was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
'Cause this is going to take me like weeks of my life, and I'm not going to be good at it. It's going to turn out not perfect. And so like, I hired my father-in-law who has a contracting business, and he came by. They knocked it out. It was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They knew what they were doing. They had all the tools and stuff. So
Yeah, perfect. I mean, yeah, I think the main, I guess, lesson that I learned, or the main like kind of thing that I would say is like, if you want to do it, it's not that far out of reach. And honestly, the reason why it even cost that much was because we messed up and used the wrong material the first time around and had to tear it down and do it again. So like specifically for the drywalling. So like if like what you were saying, for people out there that are thinking about building a studio, just like, you can do it. It's not that hard. It's really not. Yeah.
What did you attach the grid to? So you took out drop ceiling.
Yeah. Took out the drop ceiling, and there are just steel I-beams in the building. It's like an industrial kind of warehouse vibe. So there are I-beams, and we just did like, I guess they're called, I-bolts. We did I-bolts.
And you drilled them into the ceiling? Or
we
into
didn't,
those?
no, because the I-beams are like 2 panels like this of steel.
Okay.
And there's a gap in the middle. So we threaded the beams through the gap in the middle with washers and nuts. And then that was solid enough. We just have 7 or 8 points, and all of it is steel rope that can hold like 1,000 pounds each. So
so it's not coming down.
yeah, I think probably realistically you could hang 8,000 pounds on it, but we would not even do that. I just wanted to have a ton of clearance, just because, just cause.
Yeah, for sure. What kind of lights do you have hung up there?
They're Aperture Amaran lights. Amaran, I think they're F21. So the cyc lights are F21Cs, multicolor.
Yep, RGB.
RGB, yeah. And then the key and the fill light are F22s, just a little bit bigger, 2x2 LEDs.
Yeah, just white.
They are multicolor.
Oh, they're
RGB.
multicolor too.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the F22s. They're the slightly bigger ones.
They're slightly bigger. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Are the F21s bright enough?
They're bright enough when you stack them up. They're not as bright as yours, though. And when I saw yours, I was like, dang, that's punchy. I almost want to switch.
Yeah. I built a podcast studio for another company nearby, and we used F22s and a F21.
Yeah.
And they got the job done. It was a space probably like what we're in here, maybe a little bit slightly different dimensions.
Yeah.
But they got the job done. Yeah, we ran them at like 25%.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the main challenge really is just with the dimensions of the space and the output of the lights. When you want to do that really clean, like the key and fill are neutral color on the subject and the background is colorful, you have kind of some spill on the background, so you get more of a vignette instead of that clean, perfect, color effect in the background.
Yeah.
So that's been the challenge. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Right now we have 4 lights lighting the cyc wall. So I think if we add 1 or 2 more, that would probably eliminate the problem, most likely. But
Yeah. And I think you could like separate your subject from the wall, I think, which would bring your key light and fill light back as well. But you might not have that room.
That's the thing. Yeah, we're working with a smaller space. So that from the back of the cyc wall to the wall, I think is 14 feet. It's not a lot of space.
Okay. Yeah.
So to get a camera in there and to get a subject and to have the back wall lit colorfully, it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah. I've seen the stuff y'all produce in there though. It's great. Like you wouldn't even know that it's like a smaller studio,
Yeah.
But like
it's about the final image, right? You can't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. Like you can still make some incredible stuff with a small to medium sized studio. Like the bigger studios, like we were talking about a second ago, like if you have a bigger studio, it's almost like more of a hassle to get, unless you're shooting like a car or like something kind of large scale.
Yeah.
But if you're doing somebody sitting at a table, like if you have a large studio, it can sometimes introduce more hassle than it's worth.
Yeah, that's kind of was part of the niche too that I was trying to fill, because there are a decent amount of larger studios in Austin, and they're amazing. I mean, so many really, really good studios here. But I did find that a lot of people that are coming through the Highland Collective, for example, they want to shoot creative stuff on a backdrop, but they don't want to either build their own studio, or they don't want to shoot in a huge studio. They want to shoot in something small. And they also don't want to necessarily take too much time to light and do things like that. They just want to like get their ideas out there. So that's kind of where I feel like my studio's niche is people who just want to walk in, just dial in a light, including the key and the fill, which I know for like gaffers and DPs, that's like a sin. Like you can't like just to have like dialed in lighting. You know what I mean? But for a lot of people, they just kind of want to get like a story out there, or they just want to shoot a headshot, or they want to get a picture of their grandma or something. You know,
they want it set up so they can just walk in with a camera.
They just want to walk in with a camera, not worry about lighting, do it in an hour or 2 hours. And even if sometimes it's like we had like an acting coach come by who wanted to do like just really basic like acting classes, but film it and make it look nice. It's like he doesn't need it to look like a Scorsese film, you know, but he also wants it to just be nice and lit, soft lighting, stuff like that. So that's kind of the niche that I figured to fill. And then obviously, weirdly enough, like the first thing we ever booked was a Rocket Mortgage commercial.
Oh, nice.
In our studio.
That's huge.
Yeah, I know. It was like the biggest thing we ever booked and the first thing we ever booked.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know how they found us. Like, it was not online. They just emailed me. They were like, hey, can we shoot our commercial? And they obviously brought in their whole lighting team and did all that they needed to do. And it worked out fine. They just took down the key and the fill and put their own lighting in. So I just tell people like, you know, it's set up for a basic lighting package, but if you want to bring in your own lighting, it's totally encouraged, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly what I tell people here.
Yeah.
And I probably need to add a few more front lights.
Key and fill.
As is, and probably some RGB lights that hit the ground more, because there's definitely a little bit of separation. So it's not 100% dialed in. But yeah, people come in
It's
and
a work in progress.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. Even when it's dialed in, it's still going to be a work in progress.
Of course. Yeah.
But yeah, people come in and sometimes they will literally show up with just a camera. And I'm like, all right, it's set up for you, you know, like that's the look that you're going to get.
Yeah.
But also some people come in and they're an entire production crew. So they have, you know, carts with lights and like the whole thing, and they do their whole thing. So yeah, we try to be, just like you said, you know, we try to just be a turnkey studio where they walk in, they got everything they need.
That's great, man. Yeah. It's funny too. I remember it just like popped in my mind one time. I like gave someone the rundown of the studio, like was like, oh, and you can just dial in the lights here, and like just whizzed the color wheel around and then left it. And then like, that's how they shot the whole day. Like
on that color, on the pink or whatever.
Just like the thing that it would just like fell off the truck on.
That's great.
And they got great results. Like I was like, cool, you know?
Yeah.
But it was just like, they were like, cool, that sounds great. And they just didn't touch it.
That's great. And it probably looked great.
Yeah, it looked good. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was probably 10 times better than anything they had shot in the past because they had access to a studio.
Yeah, it was like slightly green, but that's what they were going for. They were going for like kind of like an off color type look, you know, like kind of the Matrix type thing, you know? So yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So y'all use your studio, of course, and then you rent it out to other people, right? Do y'all use it more than other people?
I think we do. We probably use it more than we rent it. Yeah.
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 And when you rent it out, how do you kind of get the word out there? Are y'all on Peerspace?
We're on Peerspace and Gigster, and I don't really do anything to get the word out there. I guess my philosophy right now is, since it's not a huge focus to actually rent the studio, it's kind of just word of mouth, and like we rent it to friends a lot, you know. Like I said, Twoper started off as a network of, you know, like friends to film stuff. So I recently had some friends come in who are launching a new production company that is focused specifically on, I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about it, but anyways, they're focused specifically on one type of thing, and they wanted to launch their, you know, production company. So
now I'm curious, what is that one type of thing?
Yeah, right. I don't
can't talk.
I will tell you about it if I get clearance, but I don't know if I'm allowed to yet. I think it's fine, but I just don't want to like blow their bag or whatever. Like their secret. Yeah. So anyways, it's like, you know, that kind of thing comes up for friends, and then I mean, otherwise, what do we do to advertise it? Nothing. Yeah.
They just come through.
Yeah, I mean, we should probably do more, and I've been thinking about that. It's been up for a year, but then again, we use it every day. We work in the studio space.
Yeah.
So we're not super worried about renting it too much. It's kind of like...
Right, we get kicked out when people come in there.
Yeah.
Exactly,
like yesterday, we had somebody come in, do a photography session, and we had to move out to the...
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, is that if it is one big room, like we have separation here, but if it's one big room, if people come to rent it, then you have to figure out what to do with your company, right? Or
Yeah.
like, how are you going to work on the computer if they're 15 feet away doing their thing?
Yeah. So that's kind of just been like, for me right now, it feels like a good balance.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think it's been,
People come in maybe once a month,
yeah.
like on a, it depends. Like,
Randomly, like we had the guy yesterday that last minute was like, can we come in? Like something fell through and it worked out perfect.
yeah.
Yeah. And when those bookings come in, is that you dealing with that? Like the email and the
He
contract
starts
and all
it. Like
that?
everybody reaches out to him and then he'll pass it off to me and I'll handle it or
Yeah. We kind of just tag team approach.
Yeah.
Just some go to her, some go to me.
Yeah. Does anybody like not pay before showing up?
no.
They
Well,
always
I-
pay
since
before.
I've been here.
No one's paid. No one's not paid.
Yeah. We've had a couple bookings where we'll just pester them about payment. We're like, hey, you need to pay before showing up. Like that's, yeah. And then they'll still show up. And I'm like, y'all got to pay before we roll.
Yeah.
And we've had cancellations, like, especially on a weekend. Those are the kind of the worst. Because I'm coming up here on a weekend and then they end up kind of canceling last minute or something like that. But it happens. That's part of, like you said, if you were to transition into a studio that's primarily renting out, like that's a whole new mess of hurdles that you'd have to figure out how to jump over.
Yeah, for sure. And like the sound one is a big one. And then like, since we run the shop we run our production shop so closely next to so many other artists, I'm also cognizant of the fact that like, I don't want to take up too much of a footprint in the studio in the Highland Collective. I could. All the people there are so nice that I could go in and say, hey, everyone, I need you to be quiet for the whole day. But it just doesn't feel right, you know? And like everyone's doing their own project. So, and I love the photo clients because they never worry about sound and, there's not as much gear associated with it. So it's easy.
Yeah.
But
You do photography as well?
yeah, I love photography. Yeah, it was kind of where I started. My first camera was a Canon T3i, like a lot
Nice.
of filmmakers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
T3i, the old rebel.
yeah, the old classic. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Has having a studio helped with your photography part? Because one thing I've realized is that like I'm a cinematographer first and foremost, or like I have been for years, and I've dabbled in photography a little bit. But now that I have this studio, I've been doing so much more photography because clients will show up or clients will like call us and they'll say, hey, like we have an idea, but we need a photographer. And I'm like, oh, great. I got you. So like this studio has kind of led to more photography work in my life. Have you seen that as well?
Not really. I guess I just don't take photos for money as much. I guess I just mostly do videos, and then my photo work is just kind of more, I guess, personal. I just take my cameras with me every time I travel. So I guess I just really like to shoot locations more than studios. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. How do y'all find in your video production company, how do y'all find clients? Because that's always the hardest thing for me is finding clients. And I have a few key clients that keep me busy and they keep me in business and stuff. But yeah, how do you find clients?
I mean,
Vibes.
Vibes. I go to mixers a lot.
You go to
I go to mixers that don't make sense for somebody that's trying to find video production. Like I went to a mixer the other day that was like startups looking for funding, and I'm like, well, I'm looking to make your video, so it made sense because I was the only person there doing that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's what I try to think outside the box too. Like I reach out to places that might not be looking for that, but I might lead them to the water. You know what I mean? Like you might not need us, but you might. So
I think
pitch as an additional. Like, I know you have your production company you go to, but what if one day you need more additional whatever? So I take that approach.
Yeah.
We're still hashing that out though.
I think that's one of those things too that's a constant work in progress. Like just figuring out how to find new clients is if every business owner's weak spot is leads, right? Like that's why you get so many scam emails that are like, I can get you leads. You know what I mean? It's like everyone wants leads, right? I think
but there's no one way. Like,
there's no one way.
That's the one thing you have to remember is like it might have worked for somebody this way, but not necessarily for us. It will work that way.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. And just also for me, it's like keeping an eye open on like what's happening in Austin. Like what's going on, who's got the money, what companies are like getting funded that might need videos.
Right place, right time is so huge,
Yeah.
I think honestly something that I learned from Clayton and Taylor when I worked with them was because I asked them the same thing. The first thing I wanted to know was, how do you guys get clients? And they were like, plant seeds. Which is a kind of a frustrating answer, but it's so true. It's like you plant seeds and then 2 years later they grow into trees, like 2% of them, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just like planting seeds all the time and just hoping that you can kind of ride the wave of the work that you have until maybe some of those grow into new trees, you know?
Yeah.
You can pick the fruit off of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like Taylor is so good at that too. Cause like, I would ask him the same. I'd be like, where'd you get this client? And he's like, oh, I went to high school with her brother's wife or whatever the scenario. And I'm like, okay, that was like 12 years ago and now it's grown into this thing. And so like, and Taylor's a people person, you know? So I think it kind of goes back to like, you have to be a people person. You can't just be good with the camera. You also got to be good with people.
Yeah, I was thinking about it once, and this was maybe a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. And I was thinking like, honestly, while the work is slow in the summer, I should just go grab beers with everyone I know that is tangentially related to filmmaking or any industry.
Yeah.
And I was like, my job should just be going to like hang out with people all summer, you know?
Yeah.
And it kind of comes down to that, you know, more than anything. And what I realized too is like, just kind of focus on building those authentic relationships with people, and then it just grows from there, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I try to have coffee with, we get a lot of cold emails, people asking for work, because I think every freelancer is looking for work all the time.
For sure, yeah.
So we get those emails and I'm always like, or I'm not always, but a lot of times I'm like, let's go grab coffee just to see what they do, you know, maybe they're a cinematographer or an editor or whatever.
That's super cool. And I think that's such a great like approach. Honestly, yeah, I admire you for that, because that's a good way to like connect and engage with the community, and also I think it's important to help the next generation of filmmakers, you know, and to sort of foster like an inclusive community and just say, like, obviously we're busy and we can't grab coffee with everyone or reply to every email, but my kind of general thing is like, I have a hard time like you, like we're more maybe right brain people, so I have a hard time replying to every email sometimes. But if someone follows up with me and I can tell they really want to do something, I will definitely like be like, all right, let's grab a coffee at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's hard for me sometimes if it's just another email, because there's so many scams out there all the time that it's like, you know, it's hard to really see what is legit, you know, what's a scam.
Yeah. And there's no shortage of filmmakers in Austin.
For sure.
In our area. You know what I mean? It's such a huge community. So you kind of do have to do that in-person networking to make your small network, because the Austin network is so big. And that's kind of the point of this podcast, is bringing people who are in similar industries as myself and just kind of bringing y'all in and talking shop, you know,
and
press and record before we do it.
Yeah.
And making sure all the cameras are plugged in with HDMI. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. What was one of the biggest challenges now that your studio's been open for a year? Your video production company has been in business for multiple years. So like kind of what's one of the biggest challenges that you've encountered?
Biggest challenges, God, it's like, there's no shortage, you know what I mean, of challenges. I think the biggest challenge has been learning how to speak to corporate clients when you're really excited about a creative idea. To me, the biggest challenge has been just navigating, like, clients are not on your frequency, you know, and you have to basically take your energy and distill it into something that they can understand, which makes sense, right? I mean, if they spoke their language to me, I would not understand at all, you know? So, and it was frustrating at first to be like, why can't I just tell them, like, I'm going to go grab an apple from the gear room, and then, you know what I mean? Like, why can't I just like tell them, then this shot goes like this and dollies around them, and then like they just won't hear that, which I get, you know? But it's the same with the clients when they speak to us. Like, why can't they just tell us, this is what we want, and this is our crazy piece of technology that is like innovative, and you have no idea how it works, but we need you to like document every piece of it. So it's just been learning how to take what we want to do and how we work and breaking that down into something that makes sense for people who don't come from the video production world.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. We had a client recently, it was a corporate client, and we were shooting it, and I kept saying like, okay, let's do that again. And he was like, why do we have to do it again? I just did it.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, but this is a different angle. And he's like, yeah, but I just did it. And so like, it was
Yeah.
hard to get that. Like, again, for us,
Right.
it makes perfect sense. We're like, yeah, obviously you have to do it multiple times from different angles.
Yeah,
But, like,
you've already
it
thought
was-
3 steps ahead. Like, I
Yeah.
need to edit this, and I need to, you know what I mean? Yeah.
And he was like, I don't know why we have to do it again. So he was kind of getting frustrated. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing. You have to
Yeah.
kind of shift your language a little bit to make sense to them.
Yeah, and like just manage
Expectations.
the expectations without getting frustrated.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand where they're coming from. You
Because
know,
they don't understand like everything. Sometimes they don't understand everything that goes into production. They're like, take a camera and go shoot something.
Yeah.
And then they think they're going to see a commercial that you see on TV. And it's
Yeah.
so much more than that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
managing
crazy.
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's great. It's crazy how like another thing that I learned is like there's not like a secret to making good videos. It's like stacking little tiny incremental changes on top of each other, like until
Yeah.
it becomes good. You know, which
Yeah.
is so hard.
You got to have a good lighting and then a good lens. And then after that, you have to have good editing and good music, good sound effects, good color correcting. It's all these tiny little things.
Yeah, and even within that, it's like make the grade 5% better, then make the edit 5% better, and like we're splitting hairs. Like I'm like sitting there with the director watching a cut, and he's like, "That could be 1 frame shorter," and it's like no one watching this will ever think that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But you get to that point, you know. I mean, for you, what were kind of the biggest challenges for starting your business? You know.
Yeah, I mean, bringing on new clients is always tricky. Finding new clients. So what I try to do is keep my current clients happy,
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
Keep them happier and maybe grow their budget a little bit, because I think it's much cheaper to grow your existing client than to bring on a new client.
Right.
There's a bunch of back and forth with a new client. You have to figure out what they want. You have to figure out their brand. You have to figure out budget. You have to agree on a budget.
You have to spend time making decks, and you might
Yeah.
not actually end up getting the client.
Yeah. So yeah, I think keeping my existing clients is kind of top priority.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think our industry, we're all subcontractors under, the corporate client pays us. So like, if their industry goes downhill, they're going to pay us less as well. So that's kind of a downside as well
course,
that I'm
yeah.
seeing.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you go back and do anything on the studio part? You've had it open a year. Would you go back and do anything? Would you spend longer
Oh,
than a
for
week
sure.
planning?
Yeah, I think if I was to go back to do anything, I would paint all the walls matte black.
Okay.
Because we went with, and this is another example of Chloe being right. She's always right. She had the idea. She was like, why don't you paint it? And I was like, it's too expensive and messy to paint. We're just going to put foam on the walls. And it's great. The foam is awesome. But foam stretches, and then there's little white like lines in between them, which is a minute detail. But
Yeah.
if we had painted it first, like Chloe suggested, it would have been better.
So you still have the foam up?
We still have the foam up.
Oh, you
and-
haven't painted it yet?
Yeah, we haven't painted it yet. So this summer we're going to take all the foam down and paint it, and then I wish I had kind of thought of the steps from a higher level first, because for example we were kind of like, let's build a studio, and we just did everything at once, put the foam on the walls, started tearing down the wall, started drywalling, but foam is very absorbent and drywall makes a lot of dust. So
Yeah.
so we ruined an entire wall's worth of foam panels, took them all down, actually, and recycled those in the floor of the psych wall to dampen the sound. So that ended up being a fine thing. But if I had thought about that, more from a top level and gone, this is the steps we need to do it in, then that would have been better. So I don't regret doing it the way I did, because we got it done, and that's the priority, right? But and we were on kind of a short timeline, but if I were to go back and do it again today, I would have much more support because Rachel would be here.
Yeah. Now, is your psych wall raised, or is it just on the ground?
It is raised.
It's
Yeah.
raised. So you put the foam underneath that platform? is that what
Yeah,
you're
we
saying?
did. Yeah, because there were some challenges with the concrete floor in that building was not meant to be exposed concrete. I mean, it originally had tile. That building that we're in, the Highland Collective, was a auto service shop in the 80s.
Okay.
It was a Firestone tire shop. And then it became a constructions logistics place where they tore out all the floors and made it just bare concrete. And then it became the Highland Collective. And those floors are rough, and they are not ready for a flat psych wall surface. So we kind of just opted to put a platform of wood on there. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Did y'all do, so on the Cove, did y'all do like a 3-foot radius, I guess it would be called, or a 2-foot?
Oh man, I don't know.
Yeah, because that was one of the things that one of like the decisions I ran into early on. I was like, 2-foot or 3-foot? Like, and again, it's one of those things no one's ever going to notice, but I was obsessing over it.
Yeah.
I think we ended up doing a 3-foot Cove because I think my contractor tried a 2-foot, but then he was like, I don't think it's going to work. It's a little bit too small. So if we can get away with 3-foot, we might as well do 3-foot. So I think we did 3-foot.
Okay.
And we just painted the concrete just because it was there. It was smooth enough. We had to fill in a bunch of cracks. But yeah, it was smooth enough. And it's one of those things, my landlord hasn't been in here to see it. So I don't know if they're going to be happy with me if they do see it.
Painting over everything is the landlord special, right? So just paint over everything and you're good.
Yeah. And I'll knock the sidewall down, put flooring.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we did our construction, we knocked a big wall down, and the most expensive thing we did out of the whole thing was the flooring. Mm-hmm. Flooring is super expensive, and I think that's one thing that took me by surprise. Was like I had priced out everything, I had obsessed over it, I had like looked at about like where everything was going to go, and I had gotten a bid from my contractor. But then I had to buy the floor. I was like, yeah, that's fine. It'll be $3,000 to buy the floor, but it was like over $8,000 just for the floor, and then they had to install it. And then the baseboards as well.
Just the raw materials,
Yeah, exactly. And I got like kind of the cheap floor, but I think that's one thing I underestimated was when you move into a big space, like there's a lot of space. There's a lot, like you got a lot of flooring. You need a lot more furniture. Like you need a lot more paint. You need a lot of everything. And when I first moved in, all the stuff that I had took up like a tiny corner, and I was like, "Oh man, we need lots of stuff here."
I feel that. Yeah, even the paint is a big thing. It's like it's a lot of paint just to cover, even a small sidewall.
Yeah. So what's next? Now that y'all have been there a year, now that y'all are cooking, y'all are creating great stuff. What's next?
A lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a couple like video essay type things we're gonna do. I don't know how much you want me to talk about stuff.
I mean, send it.
We've been thinking about like a film festival at the Highland Collective.
Yeah, we want to start a film festival this year. Yeah. We want to do a lot more kind of like community focused events. Shameless plug, we do like community cleanup events every quarter, I would say. The next one is in May. What is the day?
It's the Sunday after Mother's Day. The following Sunday.
The Sunday after Mother's Day, we're gonna get together in Zilker and we're gonna clean up some trash. So we want to do more stuff like that.
And is that everyone from the Highland Collective?
It's just everyone who wants to come do it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's kind of just like I kind of started as a way because I was thinking as a filmmaker, we have kind of a big impact on the environment. Like the things that we do aren't always the most eco-friendly, just from cameras, being manufactured and just production vans, things like that, right? So I was thinking, what's a really easy way, like today, right now, with zero equipment, zero research, to just kind of like make an impact, and it's just go pick up trash. So I just same kind of deal, just invite friends to go pick up trash, and we go to Zilker Park, and we've already cleared 300 pounds of trash,
Nice.
So it's not a ton, but it's a little bit of an impact, and over the years hopefully it becomes 300,000 pounds. I don't know, who knows, it could become global, who knows. Yeah, right.
That's great. I mean, I think we all have a responsibility to like make a difference outside of our like selves. Like our own little life is here. This is what we work on. This is our family. These are our immediate relationships. But even outside that, like outreach and like donations and stuff like that is super important.
Yeah, even in a small way, right? And then in terms of video, we're up for 2 features. Who knows if we'll do them, but we're up right now for two features. And then
what does that mean? Does that mean you've started writing them or what?
We have 2 directors that came to us separately with ideas that they wanted to shoot. And we're just we have bids out for them. So we'll see, some commercial work, recurring, and, just kind of developing
as we go along.
Yeah. We recently kind of shifted our motto to the crossroads of art and advertising. Because, being rooted in the Highland Collective, we love all of the artistic minds that are around us, and we love to create art, but we also love helping brands achieve the goals that they want to achieve. So we just found that sweet spot right in the crossroads of art and advertising, and we're really excited to hone in on that this year and to make some work that really speaks volumes to that, because I feel that right now we're really just at the very beginning of where we want to go, and the work that we have is kind of just a foundation layer that we're going to build 2perf on top of. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think that's kind of all we do. Like early on in your career, you were laying those foundations to where you are today.
yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? I remember early on in my career, I saved up my allowance money in high school, and I bought a little camera that I still have.
There you go.
I'll probably always have it. And
That's that foundation.
It's a foundation. Yeah. And you kind of set yourself up. And then a few years later, I took out a loan, bought a bigger camera, and then here we are, a couple decades later. So yeah, it's always laying foundations for yourself.
Totally. What was that first camera?
It was one at Best Buy. It was a little camcorder,
Nice.
just a widescreen. I'll show you before we leave. But yeah, it was $450. And yeah, I went to Best Buy, and they only had like 5 to choose from. You know what I mean? This was before DSLRs, the large sensor cameras. This was way back when. And I left there with the camera. I was super proud. I went home, filmed everything. My family, my friends, I would edit on Windows Movie Maker back in the day. And then I found a free copy of Premiere somewhere deep on the internet, and I downloaded that and started learning.
That's
Premiere.
how legends are born on camcorders.
Yeah,
That's
camcorders
true.
and cracked software.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool. How can people find y'all? Y'all are on Instagram.
Yep.
Yep.
Instagram, 2perf Productions.
Google.
Yeah.
Google.
Website is 2perf.us. We got our work on there. And I mean, we're always open. DMs are open and email box is open. Give us a call. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank y'all for coming in. I'm going to have to go down and check out y'all's space sometime.
Yeah. Anytime. You should definitely come by. Like, we'd love to give you a tour.
Yeah, man. I'd love it. Maybe round 2 of this podcast, we can do it at y'all's place.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Good stuff. Thank y'all.
Yeah, thanks.